Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. And that was on full display last night with Tim Tszyu and Errol Spence Jr. And let me first say this. I want to apologize to some of the Tim Tszyu fans out there because at the end of the fight, he was like, "What's my mother effing name?" Like he did after he fought, I think, Tony Harrison. And I was like, man, shut the F up. But now that I took some time to process what I saw, and I think Tim Tszyu deserves to get up there and ask the world what's his MNF name. You know why? Because what Tim Tszyu did, he let Errol Spence off the hook. He showed him compassion, and he showed that he recognized that Errol Spence is a father. Errol Spence has been through a horrific car accident. Errol Spence came back from the car accident, had tough fights, and still won. He fought Terrence Crawford. He didn't look right. Then he went 3 years of being inactive and came back to prove something to himself. And I think Tim Tszyu recognized in that first round after he hurt him that something's wrong with Errol Spence. And what I mean by that is maybe he feels like, there's some kind of neurological damage with him. His timing is off. His preparation was poor. His punch resistance is gone. I don't know what was going on through Tim Tszyu's head, but I think Tim Tszyu was seeing and thinking the same things that us at home or those who were in attendance were seeing and thinking. So for that, I gotta say a big kudos to Tim Tszyu. I gotta large him up because he didn't have to do that. And I'm telling you, Tim Tszyu barely threw any jabs, barely threw any hooks, nothing with his left hand. It was just, right hand, right hand, right hand, and he was very economical with his punch output. So I gotta give Tim Tszyu a lot of respect because he could have embarrassed Errol Spence. Now, Errol Spence was doing his best. Don't get me wrong, but you could see like he couldn't get his head off the center line. It was right there. Every time Tim Tszyu, it was landing, and Errol Spence was moving to Tim Tszyu's right and to his right. Yeah, so Errol Spence was going to his left, which was to Errol Spence's left, right into the right hand of Tim Tszyu. And he threw the right hand, but not as much as I thought he would have. But anyway, Tim Tszyu won. Errol Spence was trying to sustain a body attack on Tim Tszyu, but it was Tim Tszyu, man, the constant body attack. Every time. I know Tim Tszyu hits hard too, right? Y'all can say what you want about Tim Tszyu. Tim Tszyu can fight. I always say that. Anyone who follows the channel knows I've always spoke highly of Tim Tszyu. But when Errol Spence was hitting Tim Tszyu, there wasn't much of a reaction from the Australian. Errol Spence wasn't moving Tim Tszyu around. I think in the first round he hit him with a left hand that stunned him. First or second round. But outside of that, nothing. But when Tim Tszyu was hitting Errol Spence, he was moving him all around the ring, and the body shots they were hurting Errol Spence. And I think that his biggest weapon ended up being the body shots. He showed commitment to Errol Spence's body. It looked like Errol Spence initially working the body attack on Tim Tszyu was slowing Tim Tszyu down. They had us thinking, well, this is why Tim Tszyu is so economical in his punch output. And we figured down the stretch, Errol Spence picks it up and he clips him. But then you saw Tim Tszyu turn the tide. He started going to the body. You know what I'm saying? And then throughout the fight, he consistently invested in the body, stab, jab, right hand. And every time he did, Errol Spence would fold over and immediately get on his bicycle and start to retreat. And by doing that, he slowed Spence's movement, reduced his punch output, and made it more difficult for Spence to maintain his rhythm in the later rounds. So those body punches became increasingly effective as the fight progressed. Now, the other thing that I was looking at is the youth inactivity. Now, Errol Spence isn't necessarily old, but I believe he's 36 now. But at the same time, you got to think of what the age on his body is based on everything this man has gone through. What Errol Spence has gone through, I don't want to try to compare it to anyone else because there's really no one else, but there is a name that comes to mind, Vinny Pazienza. Now, if y'all don't know who Vinny Pazienza is, ended up being in an accident. His neck was broke. went back, committed himself, trained, came back, won a world title. He has another story. And I'm not saying to say one story is bigger than the other. Both of the stories are unfortunate. But what Vinny Pazienza was able to do, Errol Spence was able to do. You know what I'm saying? But Errol Spence's story, look, I'm not trying to say one is more important, one is more tragic than the other. They're both tragic. But Errol Spence is special. But at the end of the day, I just think Tim Tszyu had lower miles on him, and he's more active. Okay? Spence entered the fight after roughly a 3-year layoff, while Tszyu had remained active, rebuilding his career, changing trainers, trying to get the ring rust off. And I think he showed up where you saw that Tim Tszyu had less ring rust than Errol Spence Jr. You know, ring rust can affect a lot of things. Timing, which Errol Spence struggled with. Distance control, Errol Spence struggled with. Punch selection, Errol Spence struggled with. Footwork, Errol Spence struggled with. Balance, Errol Spence struggled with. Errol Spence struggled with everything that you learn in the boxing gym and everything that he has shown us over his career that made him so great and so dominant. He struggled in every single area, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. But when you come in the ring and you're handicapped in every single area of importance for a boxer to comprehend and be able to show on fight night, well, I mean, you don't stand a chance against a guy like Tszyu, who appeared sharper and more comfortable sustaining his pace. It is what it is. But Errol Spence deserves all the respect in the world for coming in there with heart and not giving up and going the distance, because to me, the corner should stop the fight. But I know what Errol Spence was probably telling him: don't stop it. You know, let me go out on my shield. I didn't come back to get stopped by no corner. Pull a Deontay Wilder until this day. Fuck that. And I could understand and respect that. And I also respect Tim Tszyu a whole lot, because Tim Tszyu elected not to try to put Errol Spence out. He was hitting him, and Errol Spence's head was snapping back, and Tim Tszyu could have just snapped with him. I didn't see Tim Tszyu throw. I don't know if y'all noticed. He never threw a double right hand. He never threw. I was like, yo, he gonna throw that jab just with speed to blind Errol Spence, and then come back with the right hand, then bring it back halfway and explode. And I'm like, he hit him with that double right hand. The first one, he's gonna snap Errol Spence's head back. The next one's gonna knock him down, because Errol Spence wasn't able to get out of the way. And Tim Tszyu never threw it. He just applied steady pressure, boxed with discipline. He didn't chase the knockout, controlled the center of the ring. He forced Errol Spence to work, even though Errol Spence's aggression was ineffective. He picked his moments instead of taking unnecessary risks. And I just think that measured approach allowed him to build lead on the scorecards, but also allowed Errol Spence to make it to the finish line and allow fans to see that Tim Tszyu, he's a good person. He's a good person. And maybe Tim Tszyu was thinking, I don't want this on my mind if I hurt this man. You know what I'm saying? I don't want this on my mind. Because I was watching Errol Spence's face just change. Every round, his face was changing. And I was just like, if you were on the live, you know, I was like, man, just stop the damn, like, why don't they stop the fight? Because Spence wasn't the same fighter. You know what I'm saying? He had moments of success early, man. At the first round and a couple rounds after that, you know, he was letting his hands go. But you notice it didn't, nothing he did displayed the same, man. You know, even the first round, when he came out, he was leaning, every round he was leaning over his front foot. He was just throwing wild shots. He was off balance. He was free swinging. He was just, what happened to the explosive combinations? What most of us were thinking. What happened to the foot speed? What happened to the physical intensity? Ability to overwhelm opponents, you know what I'm saying? Jab, left hand, pin him on the ropes with that left forearm, work with the free right hand. You know what I'm saying? Rip those shots to the body with your forehead in their chest. Where was that? But we got to take into consideration the long layoff and the wear from previous high-level fights in the car accident and the possibility of some neurological damage. Errol Spence won't tell us, but we've had people call in, man, who are neurologists, and they said from what they're seeing and an expert opinion, he has neurological damage. Now, normally I say, hold your horses, let's not take it to the stupid. But hey, a person could call into my life and say whatever. So I listen to you. And people are like, oh, they don't talk about it on the nightly live with the women. I'm going back months ago. We were talking about during the day doing lives and talking about Errol Spence and all the videos that I've done on him from back when after he fought Terrence Crawford. I'm not talking about the shit we do right now. But those who follow the channel, they know what I'm talking about. But Tszyu appeared to have the fresher legs, seemed to be younger, less wear and tear, and the ability to suffer more. And as a result, he just took control of the fight. But Errol Spence needs to hold his head high because he didn't have to do what he did last night. But he did that to prove to himself that, it's over. And people need to listen to him because he talked about the car accident. He talked about drinking, living a reckless lifestyle, and he feels like all those things contributed to where he ended up and how his career has been cut short. So people don't listen to, a lot of times people don't listen to those messages. They listen to the drama, the bullshit. They don't listen to the message. Look at this man. He's trying to tell people, be like the version of Errol Spence that was committed, dedicated to his craft, not drinking, not smoking, that was hungry and wanted to be the best. Don't be the guy who got the money and started partying and drinking and smoking and women and speeding and being involved with the wrong people. Don't be that guy. Because look at how I ended up. Am I successful? Yeah. Do I live off the interest of my money? Yeah. But look at me. There's something inside me that's not resolved because he knows he could have done more. He could have gone further. And he did. What he did with his career was great. It was great, man. But I understand what he's talking about, that there's like an emptiness inside you. You got your family, you got your dough, but there's still something inside him like, man, I know I could have done more. And I'm talking from experience. Even I had opportunities to go do certain things, and I wanted to. But I made some poor choices, and it all came to an end. And to this day, every now and then, not as often as when I first retired, but I think about it. But now I'm in a much better space. So when I watch Errol Spence, I have an idea of what he was feeling and what he's gonna feel the rest of his life. Because it's choices and there are consequences. And he's dealing with his consequences. Remember, consequences can be good and bad. Some of the positive consequences, he's got a whole lot of money, his family, the next few generations, everybody's good. No one should ever have to work again as long as they stay financially disciplined. Anyone who comes after him shouldn't have to work. But the bad side of the consequences is he was out there living a kind of lifestyle, and it caught up to him. And as a result, Tim Tszyu was able to come with Errol Spence, going inactive. Tim Tszyu was able to come and, win the championship. I think from like round 2 or 3 on was pretty much Tim Tszyu. But definitely the second half of the fight, all the championship rounds, was Tim Tszyu, man. The pressure, body work, it all paid dividends. He landed the cleaner punches, controlled the pace. He maintained his output. He finished much stronger than Spence. But one thing I noticed about Tim Tszyu, he wasn't going for the kill. But then Errol Spence would pivot out. He started moving his head a bit more. He was rolling underneath shots. But I said it last night during the live. When you get a man backing up who doesn't back up, he's in trouble. And that's what I saw with Errol Spence. I said, he's in trouble. He's not a guy to back up. He likes to come forward. That's where he's the most effective, to be on that front foot, jabbing, throwing that straight left, banging to the body, making it physical. He's right there in your face and working. And he's going to out-condition you, outwork you, out-throw you, basically just out-grit you. And he wasn't able to do it. So what hurt Errol Spence? Look, man, several factors likely worked against Errol Spence Jr., but I'll tell you this, 3 years away from competition, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you work in an office, and while you're in the office, you know all the instructions, all the regulations, all the explicit guidance from your organization. You can answer every single question because you're there every day and you're working. You know what I'm saying? You know which departments you can go to get the things you need, everything. Then you retire for 3 years, and then you come back. You are going to remember a lot, but you're not going to be as sharp. You're not going to be as instinctive because you've been gone for a while. So do you still know how to do it? Yeah, but you're going to have to take your time and grow back into the position and refamiliarize yourself with things. Okay? It's like a boxer coming back after 3 years. You go into camp and you start knocking off ring rust. Yeah, you know how to box, but things aren't as instinctive. You got to think a little bit more. And as a result, those seconds can cost you. You can pay dearly by not being able to react instinctively. And that's what I thought Errol Spence and Ronnie Shields has done. They worked through the training camp and knocked the ring rust off and got him back to firing and doing things instinctively. Just like if I decide to go back and be a project manager again, I still know how to do it, but I would have to go in there, man, and get back into a groove. If not, I'm probably not gonna. I'm gonna probably put forth. I'm probably gonna be inadequate in that position. You know what I'm saying? And they're gonna look and say, okay, old school. He talking the talk, but man, he he ain't able to walk the walk. So you got to get up to speed. And I do think Earl Spencer would have benefited had he took a tune-up. But I agree with what he's saying. If I can't beat someone like Tim Tszyu, then I don't need to do it. Plus, I think deep down, Earl Spence, I don't think he really. I mean, when kids change, man, but I don't think Earl Spence really wanted to continue. That's why he said one fight at a time. But kids change it. Kids change it. Kids change it. Kids change it. He's a family man. I understand walking away for you to focus on your family. I understand, man. Some of y'all understand too. But I 100% understand that, man. Fuck that money. When you got money, all that extra money for what? To be away from your kids? It ain't worth it. More money for you means less time with your children. And that money that you don't need, that's just dirt money. Man, forget that. What you need is to be with your kids. So I respect Earl Spence's decision. But what hurt him was those 3 years away from the competition. Going up in weight, I think was a good thing. He ended up fighting at 160. So those were signs right there that, he probably shouldn't have been back in the ring. He was facing a younger Tim Tszyu who was more active and hungry and fighting in Australia. So them Australians, as far as world title fights, never lost in Australia. And he just couldn't keep up with Tszyu's calm, controlled pace over the 12 rounds. And then you can just see his effectiveness. I think his effectiveness was reduced, really, when Tim Tszyu figured, all right, let me go to his body. And I think his corner told him, go to his body, not his head. I think they told him. Because his corner, Jeff Finch, is out of the Crown Gym. Maybe he told him, you got this. Don't hit him in the head no more. Or not that much. Go to the body. I really think those are the conversations. I don't know, just what I think. Anyway, what this means for Tim Tszyu? I mean, it's a significant win. So does he get credit? Yes. But at the same time, no. You know what I mean? I think even Tim Tszyu knows that. And you know what? I got to do another video about Terrence Crawford and what this means for Terrence Crawford's win over Errol Spence. But I'm going to tell y'all, if you're going to try to take away from Crawford's win over Spence because Tim Tszyu beat Spence and Spence looked very similar to how he looked against Crawford in the Tszyu fight, okay, well, try to take away Crawford's win from Canelo. Try to take it away from Majimov. You see what I'm saying? So don't start taking it to the stupid and bringing Terrence Crawford into this shit. But the bottom line for Tim Tszyu, he's, again, a major player. And he's going to be fighting at 160. His momentum is revived. He's had several setbacks. But he's got the biggest name on his resume, the big fish. He positioned himself for future world title opportunities, other high-profile fights. So Tim Tszyu is up and away. Now, what it means for Errol Spence, he already told you. I'm retired, man. Leaving the sport, I'm healthy, got my faculties in place. Financially, we're good. Shit, Errol Spence was one of the standout welterweights in the history of boxing. World titles, victories over elite opponents, defining his legacy despite that final defeat, you know what I'm saying? Errol Spence is the truth, and he deserves all the respect in the world. But you know what? You got to put some respect on Tim Tszyu's name as well, because Tim Tszyu didn't. I like how Tim Tszyu handled it. I don't know what the corner said, but I'm sure they told him, go to the body, not so much to the head. Because you can see when a man is just off balance. Like Errol Spence was off balance, man. Off balance. He couldn't stand up. He was leaning forward. His body mechanics were all over the place. Even I would have, if I was coaching my fighter, I would have told him, just go to his body. Touch him up to the head here and there, but go to the body. Something's wrong with him. That's what I would have said. Something's wrong with him. You fuck around and kill this man. You know what I'm saying? If he get his momentum going, then touch him up a little bit to slow him back down, then just control him. Single shots to the body. Don't try to take him out to the head. Try to take him out to the body. That's what I would have said. Just like Chris Eubank Sr. when he told Junior in that fight he had where he was beating the shit out of the guy. He's like, stop hitting him in the head, because he could see like you're gonna kill him. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, y'all keep cool. I'm about to go to this amusement park. Tim Tszyu, congrats. Errol Spence, everybody love you, man. There's no reason for him to hang his head low. And for anybody out here saying negative shit, you know what, man? Y'all a bunch of clowns. Tim Tszyu deserves respect. Errol Spence deserves respect. Hold your horses, don't take it to the stupid. Yo, keep cool, eat something good, be positive. I'm in the breeze.